Elon Musk says that China's economic collapse is far worse than you believe. Furthermore, the Chinese real estate bubble has recently burst, culminating in a disaster that shows no signs of abating. According to Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, China is on the edge of a calamity owing to excessive apartment and tower construction. If you've been watching the news recently, or at least in the last few months, you've definitely seen or read something about the Chinese economy, and you've undoubtedly seen images of protests expressing unhappiness with how the Chinese government protects the rights of its inhabitants. Thousands of Chinese real estate purchasers' accounts were first suspended. Protesters then gathered in front of banks and the offices of prominent real estate investors who had pledged to provide them with apartments. Furthermore, they protested to show their displeasure that building on their brand new homes had to be halted owing to the significant financial difficulties that the real estate developers encountered. The extended and rigorous COVID-19 lockdowns also contributed to this economic problem. After seeing these scenarios, we can certainly declare that the typical Chinese person has had enough. Chinese residents have lately banded together to add gasoline to China's economic fire by postponing mortgage payments totaling more than $300 billion. Mortgage payments for over 300 real estate developers in over 90 different locals have now been stopped. The Chinese government is rightly concerned since this demonstration would not have started if a modest local petition had not sought to halt the protest spread. The Chinese Communist Party used extreme tactics in its decision-making when these demonstrations erupted, and the result? It had done nothing but stoke the flames of hatred and rage. But how had it all come to this? Before I answer that question, let me welcome you to Economic News. Here on this channel, you will find many videos talking about economies worldwide, as well as unusual ways to have an economy such as cryptocurrencies and mercantilism. Since we do a lot of research for these videos, please hit that like button and subscribe with all notifications turned on. Now, let us get back to the video and answer the question. Let us investigate what happened to China's real estate market, which looked impressive but has now turned into a major economic disaster. Let's envision a scenario to help you comprehend China's housing and real estate business. The primary goal of real estate developers is to recruit new supporters or investors. This is accomplished by informing them that a significant investment will result in a larger return on investment since property is an asset. With this guarantee, word travels to other investors about obtaining a part of a larger return, and additional money is pulled in. However, when more people enroll in the scheme, they are all promised one thing in common, that is to obtain a massive return on investment, or ROI. As you can see, these tactics are certain to fail. Despite being exceedingly unlawful, they can nonetheless be successful in a market where new cash is always accessible. Essentially, this is how real estate development in China is carried out. Many Chinese people have relocated to cities during the last 2 decades, and with their vast population, this number is only increasing. As a result, the metropolitan regions have experienced a surge in the influx of people, necessitating the construction of urban real estate. If you didn't already know, people in China place a high emphasis on house ownership. It is seen as a social good, which explains why residential property estates are in high demand. These properties are also utilized as investments and living places. In China, real estate accounts for roughly 70% of household wealth. These deposits made by Chinese citizens are typically for the long term, with some lasting decades. These homes are occasionally paid for after a marriage by sharing the basic value between both families. Because of the strong demand, real estate developers want a speedy entry into the residential real estate market, contributing to their personal earnings as well as the pool of capital. This resulted in the rise of pre-sale houses. People are purchasing homes that have not yet been constructed. This is what is meant by pre-sale housing. From a different angle, it is quite different from purchasing property. When customers make a pre-sale home investment, they put down deposits and begin making mortgage payments before the property is even finished. You may think this is ridiculous, and we agree. But that is how things are done in China. A startling statistic from 2020 revealed that pre-sale deposits amounted for 34.5% of developers' total investment. When you look at the entire cycle, it's clear to see how developers may profit from it. They do, however, have the option of incurring enormous debt. Real estate investors in China now favor pre-housing sales, which is a popular practice. This strategy was discussed previously in the video. Is China's economy deteriorating? Before we get there, let's speak about two extremely important things that help us understand what's going on. First, we must evaluate the constraints imposed by the Chinese government. It has become clear that Chinese real estate developers and investors have accumulated hazardous amounts of debt. As a result, the Chinese Communist Party enacted a new regulation known as the Three Red Lines, which went into effect in 2020. According to the regulation, Chinese real estate developers may only grow their debt provided they could demonstrate it that it did not surpass 70% of their entire assets. A company's net debt should not exceed 100 times its equity in an ideal scenario, and it should have enough cash on hand to pay down the debt. Although this is all very clever in principle, it was revealed in 2021 that around half of the Chinese property developers had breached at least one of the red lines. As these obligations were due, the whole sector struggled to secure new finance. We had watched the collapse of Evergrande Group, a Chinese real estate giant that went bankrupt approximately 11 or 12 months ago. Because various contractors are unable to raise sufficient funds to complete the projects, several large residential construction projects have already been halted as a result of these new limitations. According to reports, the Chinese government has advised other developers to be ready to take over unfinished projects if additional firms fail. In addition to the fact that growth has been severely impeded, hundreds of Chinese towns have been completely or partially shut down as a result of the COVID-19 restrictions enacted by the Chinese government earlier this year. If you watch the news, you probably saw how deserted the streets near the subways and workplaces were. People were even instructed to stay inside their residences since the situation had become so dire that the economy had ground to a standstill. This also resulted in a protracted halt in real estate development, which turned off many potential purchasers. You'd be astonished to learn that it all started with an angry letter. According to the Japan Times, customers of a half-finished dynasty home in Jiangxi province have been paying the China Evergreen firm for quite some time. However, they were yet to get the properties for which they had paid, so they addressed a letter to them outlining their problems. This was ultimately made public on social media sites like WeChat and TikTok. Other homeowners and investors who still owed money on their mortgages gradually decided to stop making payments if building activity did not begin. This ultimatum has accelerated China's quickly disintegrating real estate bubble. Within 4 weeks, more than 320 projects in about 100 locations faced similar demonstrations, with people creating their own boycott manifestos. Protests have spread from Shanghai to Beijing and from Shenzhen to Zhangjiao as a result of the market instability. Authorities are looking to developers and financial banks to restore order. It's much worse to claim that things swiftly deteriorate. Despite the fact that thousands of borrowers are presently refusing mortgages totaling roughly $300 billion, the Chinese government believes that this might cause economic turmoil. Despite the fact that these represents just a small percentage of the country's mortgage industry, due to loan defaults and a drop in property values, there is widespread skepticism about the property development business. The present troubles in the real estate sector are expected to have an impact on the financial system and the Chinese economy. The likelihood of a severe financial sector catastrophe is the second most concerning factor. Developers have already ceased paying banks in the event that the real estate industry falls, and lenders are currently not receiving their money back from construction suppliers. When 5 Chinese banks blocked client deposits earlier this year, 400,000 Chinese citizens' money was frozen. Because investor confidence is the single most important element in determining the health of China's real estate market, a large drop in house sales might lead to mortgage boycotts and widespread civil upheaval. What are your thoughts on China's economic failure? Do you think they'll be able to resurrect and revitalize the thriving real estate sector? Let us know what you think in the comments area below. Thank you for watching this video and check out our other videos on the channel.